I think we're live. Okay. What am I saying? Okay, let me do it like that. Okay, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. My name is Brenda Unu, and I'm super excited to have you here today. I want to be sure that I'm seeing both our faces because it's looking. Okay, great. I'm seeing both our faces now. All right. So, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. I'm super excited to have you on this rainy evening. If you're in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, to be precise, you're going to be battling traffic. So don't worry, I'm here to keep you company as you drive back home, and so that you're not feeling sad. But today I have the delectable Anita with me. Anita is a PhD doctor. So in fact, I used to save her number as Dr. Anita. But today I said, no, let's put it well. You know, they may be thinking it's medical doctor. And some of these doctor are the type that you shout from the rooftop. So Anita, so good to have you here today. Anita joined us all the way from Texas in the US of A. So say hello to Anita for us, guys. Good evening, Anita.
Hi, good evening, Brenda. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. It's been a harassed day, but I'm fine. I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you
Glad,
for
I'm
joining
glad to
us.
hear that. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Your platform is such an impactful one. And so to be able to come on here and talk to all of the people you're imparting so powerfully is a pleasure. It's a
Thank you.
privilege, I'll say. Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm always happy. I mean, people tell me that, oh, your guests are so. I say, yes, please. I don't know anyhow, people. We don't do anyhow. We always come correct. So, Anita, tell us about yourself. You know how we do it on our show. We don't read profiles. We just let you to, tell us about yourself, toot your horn, tell us how it is, and we'll be happy to meet you. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much again, Brenda. Well, like you already said, my name's Anita. I'm a mom of three. I always put that first and foremost because that has always shaped how I have viewed life and how I've approached it. I'm a husband of one who calls me baby girl. Everyone around me
Oshé.
literally calls me that, and I cringe. I'm like, please don't do that. Amongst other things, I'm an electrical engineer by training. I had studied from Uniben, Nigeria. All the Uniben alumni, raise your hand in the air. Uh,
Uniben.
from there, my career just pretty much picked up. By the time I was done with my bachelor's degree, I'd worked in the telecoms engineering space, and I was so sure
Mm,
that this was it for me. I really enjoyed my time there. I worked as a distributed antenna systems or a DAS engineer for a while. I worked for a company that was working with MTN at that time as an RF M2 optimization engineer. We actually worked on, and I think I would dip myself a little bit on that switch from 2G to 3G at that time. So we had worked on that, switching out antennas, going to base stations, and all of that. And then when I
mm,
saw how much that I enjoyed doing that, especially the project part of it, I had gone on to
mm,
write a PMP exam, which is roughly
mm,
12 years ago now, and became a
mm,
project manager. But as of course, with all things wonderful, you start to see there's actually much more out there.
mhm,
I figured that it was time to kind of do something a little different. And so I had gone on to pursue a master's in electrical engineering as well. And then my world shifted literally. I realized that electrical engineering was so much more than it was because right off the bat, my research was on working on the brain, the signals from the brain, and then learning all the things we've learned from signals engineering and applying it to how to really diagnose autistic children at that time. We were really hoping to find those brain signals early on, like in situ, which is really while mom's pregnant, so that parents are better
yeah,
prepared. And if there was intervention and all of that, and so seeing all of that and seeing how one core engineering aspect can influence another aspect of medicine and science was so inspiring. And so that kind of informed my decision to go for a PhD, a doctoral degree, and just go on with research. And that in its own world was something else. I think I ended up somewhere in biomedical engineering, working on electronic health records and data analysis, using that to predict the risk factors for cancer. It was cancer, but it was bladder cancer at that time. And so I just found myself literally on every sphere and map of science apart from electrical engineering, as it were. And so yeah, that's how I ended up where I am, with a doctorate degree. I currently teach here in San Antonio, Texas, at the University of the Incarnate Word. And I teach engineering. So the first class they gave me, I'm like, I know this concept, but I haven't touched anything like this
Yeah.
in easily 10 years, and so I'm having to refresh myself. But needless to say, that this path that I have taken has been really fulfilling, but really something that I've learned something from. That everything you learn, you apply somewhere else. You think you learned in one space, get ready,
Mhm.
you're about to apply it in somewhere completely different. So that's a brief,
Absolutely.
um, I guess, a description of myself.
Oh,
And I'll
wow.
turn it back to you.
I can never, you know what? As we were talking, I was like, that can never be me. Never. Like, I hated everything biology in school. I couldn't wait to drop biology. I didn't even get it in WIAC. I didn't even do it in WIAC. I was like, be off with me, So if I had found myself in any biomedical, I'm like, sorry, I don't think it's me. It's the wrong room. I would have just moved immediately.
So
But the way you're
I
describing it
agree.
actually does sound very exciting.
Oh yes, it was. It was at first. It was very challenging. It was very,
Mm.
and I think this is where I started to understand how when someone says struggle is a blessing. I think that's when I started to understand it because I struggled a
Mm.
lot. I mean, having done resistors and transistors and all of this engineering
Yes.
concepts, three-phase
Mhm.
power and all of that. And then I'm having to read about beta signals from the brain and brain structure. I struggled. I
I cannot.
remember I remember days just like, how did I get myself here? But you're already committed to it, and
Mm.
you can turn back, but the system is such that if you turn back, you're the one that's gonna lose. So you have to
Mm.
find some grit in there to push
To
on.
push through.
But the
Mm.
beauty of it, I think, is when you start to see the real life meaningful impacts of it, because
Mm.
especially for my first research, I mean, I'm working with these autistic kids who have been diagnosed and everything, and we can clearly see the scientific reasoning behind what they were experiencing, and then use that to go on to propose solutions, write grants, be able to do even bigger and better things. I think your perspective kind of changes, and then you just apply yourself. You just realize,
Yeah.
well, I'm here. I might as well just make the best out of
And
it as
once
much
you're
as
feeling
possible.
useful, with something like
Mhm.
that, it just propels you. Man,
So
I can relate. I cannot relate, but I can imagine.
yes, I hear
Well
you.
done. Well done, Anita. That is so good. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today and sharing that part of your story. That was really inspiring. I mean, look, if you guys thought that engineering was some tough thing, I mean, this lady just moved into biomedical engineering and started studying brains. I'm like, what the hell do you even do that? And then
I
got a
mean,
PhD. That's not a joke. So well done. All righty. So let's go back to today's topic.
mm,
What is the topic? What is our topic for today? It says from shame to strength and how to turn
mm,
pain into purpose. I asked this question of everybody. When you selected this topic, what were you thinking? Because when I threw out the topics, I just threw them out randomly. I say, okay, yeah, pick a date, so people are either checking for the date that fits or the topic that fits, but most times they gravitate towards the topic and then we try to make the date work. So let me know,
mm.
which one was it for you? Was it the topic or the dates? What was it that you gravitated towards?
I'll say first the topic.
Okay.
And if you remember when I chatted you, I had seen another topic. I was running away from this topic, but it was only fitting because I was just really healing from an experience that could only be described like what that topic had just described. And so when I
Mm.
realized that was it, I'm like, well, Lord, I'm gonna lean into this and just trust that you would use my story in whatever form to, hopefully help someone along in their own journey. So really, it was a topic, and then of course, thankfully, the date worked as well.
I know because every time I have to deal with people that are in the diaspora, it's always the dates. Oh, and especially because you're in North America, it's timing too. You're like, oh, have we at work at that time or something or the other? You know, when we're picking this time, we're thinking of our West African zone. I'm saying, okay, everybody's back from
Hmm.
work. But then when I
Yeah.
have to deal with people from North America, we have to start to work around dates. So I'm glad that it worked. And of course, it seems like God has something for us to know here today. So we're all ears. Tell us how, I mean, how does this resonate with you? How, just tell us your story. I mean, anyhow you
Yes.
learn to take it. We're just here to listen.
Okay. Well, thank you again. So, if you remember really early on when you and I just had connected, of course, through the Masterpiece mentorship
Mm.
program, all the Masterpiece women, I know you're here.
Hey, they're there.
I was really on my fifth year in my doctoral program. I had just had my now 4 year old at that time. And I was really hopeful that I would be graduating soon. I mean, 5 years in doctoral program was a lot. But I would go on to do 2 more years. And that journey is that was what I had just, that's what I was just describing that I was just, recovering from. And so to
Mm,
kind of start from the beginning, when I started the doctoral program, and I had come to the city in San Antonio and to the school, University of Texas in San Antonio, I had hoped that I would resume to work with a particular professor. Wonderful
mm,
man. I had met him. We had connected. Right off the bat, he already gave me what the plan was. I was pregnant, but to meet someone
mm,
who was so goal oriented, I was like, yes, this was it. And so it was a leap of faith. And so we moved and then we resumed. And I realized that he himself had just gotten an offer in another university and had been transferred. So I had
mm.
come, and which is something no university wants to ever deal with, a doctoral student with no professor.
We-
And so it was scramble, 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 and I truly believe it was by divine providence I ended
mm.
up with this professor. And I choose to call her a wonderful person, even if my experience with her wasn't wonderful. She's a great professor. I looked up to her. She herself was just coming from maternity leave. I was pregnant, and so there were lots of things I saw about her. I was like, man, I think I struck gold here. But right off the bat, I just started to have the most unusual experience with her. First was she, on a personal level, she just called me and said she didn't like to work with women. Women were difficult. They're
Oh,
too
wow.
emotional. First meeting. And so I'm really
You
sitting
couldn't even,
there.
oh, wow.
I'm just sitting there. I'm like, why are we having this conversation? I'm hoping we can talk about the research we can get into and all of that. And she goes on to all this spiel, and then she eventually assigns me something to do. I'm like, okay, wonderful. Let's dig into it. And so I'm working, 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 working. And first semester, now close to when I was going to deliver, and I let her know all that was going on. But I've done this before. This was my second pregnancy in grad school. I'm like, no big deal. She takes that topic from me and tells me, well, you're not ready to work with this topic, and takes it and hands it over to someone. Well, okay, that's fine. I come back for maternity break, sort of, which wasn't really a break, and she hands me a topic, and end of the semester, she'll take it from me and hand it to someone else. Third semester, end of semester. So this became a pattern that I think at some point I was really just trusting of the process. I was the epitome of trust the process. My husband was like, there's something wrong with this whole
Yeah,
dynamics. I'm like,
because
no,
that's not normal.
it's not normal. I'm like, no, at this point, I'm like, maybe it was me. Maybe I wasn't quick enough. Maybe I need to study more. And so I'm hours in the library. I'm putting in the work. By the fourth semester, now I'm catching on. Now, this fourth semester, I'm giving it my all. I'm telling you, I leave from church, I head to the library, I'm there till night, I'm there till late. I was, in spite of having now at this time a less than 1 year old and a 4 year old and managing my home and everything. And I was working on this thing, and I had put everything together with going for a paper. And then she just goes to say, well, you've missed the deadline. You can turn in this paper. I'm like, first and foremost, you never even told me there was a deadline. You gave me this topic, and you just left me to run with it. And I think I've done a wonderful job. I mean, what have I done here? She's like, well, she doesn't think it's enough. You can turn in this paper. She takes it from me. And she says, well, I'm going to give this group of gentlemen who are going to work on it and let them get it ready in time for the paper. You're just not ready. And she
It
gives
wasn't really past the deadline.
No, it wasn't really past the
Oh,
deadline. It turns out
she just
that,
suddenly had more time.
oh my goodness, turns out that she could buy two more months on this project.
Mm.
I was like, I'm looking at this thing, and so true to what she said. She took this whole work that I'd done, gave it to this gentleman. Now I've been one person working on this. She gave it to four other grad students, all gentlemen, to work on it. And of course, they're knocking out this thing, and they had 2 months to write the paper, and she publishes it, and she didn't even put my name in the whole paper. Now I'm like, okay, this is serious. Like, I'm in soup. That's how I felt. Like, I'm in hot soup. So I mean, I'm a believer, so I'm praying about this thing. I'm like, what am I to do here? Lord, I know you led me here and all of that. I'm exploring the concepts of trying to go to another professor, which is in the university system over here, it's really hard because the professors work together. They're kind of peer mentors of each other. So if they sense like there's going to be trouble with the student from another professor, they would just much rather leave you over there and you deal with your own stuff. Or and so that was what was going on. I was drowning. I realized that all the classes I had taken, 80% were with her because she would recommend the classes. And so I had no network of any form. I had no leverage, no social capital, no professional capital. I was tied to this person, and now I was on the news. That was what it was. And so I started to pray. I'm like, this cannot be it. And so this is ending of 2019, going into the infamous 2020 year. And so out of goodwill, I had made Christmas box and I was going to give it to her. And so I walked into her office and said, well, Merry Christmas. I know we're going for the holidays. Here's something. I'd done something for her, something for her kids, which, I would see playing around in her office. And she turns and says, do you want to graduate with a PhD? I'm like, Ma, Ma, I've done all the classes. All that's left is research. I'm like, absolutely. She's like, well, I don't know if you can. Well, let's come back from the Christmas holiday and then talk about this. I'm like, this is the craziest conversation I've ever had. And so, and to put into context, at this time, my husband was away because he had gone for his own dental training as well. So I was home alone, having to deal with all of this craziness. He's away. I mean, that's usually my support and my rock and my shoulder to cry on and all of that. So it was really a stressful time. But I went into the holiday just praying and saying, Lord, one, I'm going to rest because mentally I was just down the drain at this point. And
Mm.
second, I need to come back to the school year with something fresh. And so I went for the holidays, put away my laptop, determined I was going to have fun and enjoy myself. By the time I did
Mm.
come back, again, this was just by divine providence alone. There was a project that was made available by another professor from another department. And so she's
Okay.
like, well, take this project. This is your Hail Mary. If you can get it right, that's fine. If you cannot, that's it. And so I
Mm.
walked into this professor's office. Wonderful, wonderful gentleman. And I just laid it there. I'm like, I'm not coming here to pretty up myself. Maybe you're thinking you're getting the best of the graduate students, although I think I am the best. However, um, this is where I'm at my doctoral degree. Most people already have done that. I haven't done it, and I need support. And so it's like, okay, I'm here. I need a graduate student who's going to run this project. And he asked, would you be happy if I co-advised you? I'm like, absolutely. I mean, I didn't have any professional capital, and here was someone asking. I'm like,
Mm.
yes, please, in capital letters. And so um, he took me on as a student while still being a student of the other professor,
Congratulations. Yeah.
but he was determined to train me as his doctoral student. And so he invited me to his lab, gave me a lab space, and
Mm.
I just learned so much from him. He would, like, first lab meeting, I'm just looking around, like, first is he has all the students. Second is he was relatable. He's talking with them, he's joking with them, he's respecting them while they're not losing respect for him. It was refreshing. It was
Thinking,
different.
you mean this is in the same university as
You
I am?
mean this exists?
Possible?
I just sat there, like someone who is dying from thirst in a river. Like, and so the first time he had me present to his lab, you know, I was stammering, I was stuttering. I had no training. 2 years plus in this. And as a doctoral student, you should have had training. I had zero training. And after it was done, he's like, you did a wonderful job. I've sent you emails with specific notes on things to work on. But can everyone give her a round of applause? I'm just standing there. I know I goofed. I know. that this wasn't anything resembling good. But then he has sent me this very detailed email. You did wonderful. I think you have potential, but you need to work on this. You were stammering here. You were using filler words here. You were not pandering to the audience. And so he put me on rotation, and he would make me present over and over and over again. Now this was during COVID era now, because now we're in 2020. But he was
Yeah.
relentless. He would tell me, he says, my job is that I raise faculty like me. And so I have to train you in everything that you need.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, Jesus, only you could have done this. And so he would train me in grant writing, give me opportunities to review papers and give me pointers and let me know this is what you're looking for. This is the
Mm,
professional side of things. This is the lab running side of things. And he just trained
mm.
me. But because of the
Wow.
COVID era, my research had stalled because, if you remember, non-essential procedures were off the table, and I had got into
Mhm.
a clinical stage where I was supposed to be getting specimen from human beings. At that time, we were doing a bladder reconstruction for bladder cancer. So it really, really stalled a lot of things. But notwithstanding, he'll keep supporting me. In the middle of that, he encouraged me to write a proposal for my doctoral research, which I did. So
Mm.
he was just like a bedrock. I still had this professor, and she was still doing her own thing, but I had massive support on the other hand. And
Yeah.
so, but because she gets to sign off on graduating, she still had a
Mm.
pull. And so every meeting I meet with her, she'll tell me, you need to change to a master's and graduate. I'm like, Ma, why? And she'll say, well, you have children now. You need to go get a job. I'm like, ma'am, I did wonderful in my master's. I dare say so. If I wanted a job, I would have gotten a job a long time ago. What I need is to graduate from this doctoral studies. And all I ask of you is support. So it was a very passive aggressive back and forth.
Can't
Now
even
talking,
imagine the
oh
emotional and mental load of all of this.
goodness.
Wow.
It was, and I mean, all of this time, think about it. I'm still paying tuition in very serious, heavy dollars. I'm still,
Oh,
at this time, I think I was pregnant with kid three or something. But I was just determined that I wasn't going to give anyone the pleasure of stepping out from this program. So year three, year four, into year five, he had advised me that I part with that project because while it was still a valid project, the technology had run out on the project and the focus was on COVID related researches anymore. So I wasn't going to get funding for it. They just said, look, you've done massive work. I know it's hard to be able to put away work you've done, but it's better you do it now than next week because then you'd have wasted more time on something that wasn't productive.
one
So
time.
heavy tears, I put that aside and then I took on another project which he has assigned. But because he was out of field, he could only advise me from a general research standpoint, and I was getting advice from her. And so
Mm,
this was now single cell related, again, biomedical engineering jargon and everything. So I was working on this thing.
mm,
I was working, 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 and I got stuck one day. I was just,
mm.
it was like I need someone else to. So I sought my lab mates help. And so I'm talking about this project and what I had done. He's looking at me blank and shocked. And
Mm.
he happened not to speak English very well. So I'm trying to read, am I reading his body language wrongly or something? And so he says, what project are you working on? And I tell him. And so he goes to the computer and shows me, is this your data set? I'm like, yes. He's like, that's the same project I'm working on. I'm like,
My
why?
God. Why?
Like, why? He's like, well, our professor assigned this to me and she asked me to use this method. And for
Wow.
context, his method was the Novell method. The method she had insisted I use was the well-known traversed method that wasn't really going to gain any momentum for publishing any papers. So essentially, from what I could
He set
see,
you up.
she set me up to be his control. And I
Oh
did not
my
know.
God.
Now
My God.
I'm just sitting there looking. And so
Someone just had you doing useless work for
That
all
that's
those
exact
years.
that's the best way to describe it. So I asked
Oh
for a meeting
my
with
God.
her to meet with him as well, to let her know, let's put all the cards on the table. And so I had
Yeah,
that
let's
meeting.
know.
And I'm like, well, this is what it seems like. You can imagine at this time I've lost all the Nigerian home training, fear like.
Yes, by this time, there's no mind in the
I'm
situation
like,
anymore. Like,
let's
it's
we're
full on
all
war.
adults. Let's
Mm-hmm.
let's just talk to each other. I'm like, this is what I found out. She's like, well, it's true he's doing the novel part, but this is just a difference in approach, and I don't need anyone to feel jealous about the other person. I'm
Jealous?
like,
This is not about jealous, ma'am. You've been
I'm
caught with
like,
your pants down.
I
At
said,
least have
look,
some dignity and some
at
shame.
least, at the very least, I'm like, I don't know about the word jealousy because to be honest, that's not what I'm feeling. I'm just curious as to what
Absolutely.
your plan is. So I, I had that very hard conversation with her, but she didn't really quite change, her how she would have me approach this. And so I went back to this other professor who's just become a mentor at this point, and I explained. And I have to say
Mm.
something about this man. He's such a gracious person. He can see the injustice, but he would not
Mm.
open his mouth to say this person did wrong. And that's one thing
Yeah.
I learned from him. And so he told me, he said, okay, maybe this is an opportunity to show initiative. You've been
Mm.
working on this data set for so long. I'm pretty sure there are many areas that you've seen you can work on. I said, yes, absolutely. He's like, okay, I want you to go home and do a homework. Put together all of those areas, propose a research in it, call me in a meeting with her because I know she will likely not just be unreasonable with me in her presence. And let's talk about this approaches. So that's what I did. I put everything together. I called this meeting and then she's like, okay, let me hear what you have to say. I proposed this wonderful research path with this thing. I'm like, we can do this, do this, do this, do this. I just need an approval on one of these things.
Mm.
And so she goes, well, there's potential. I think this is wonderful. You know what? Why don't you just go and do some more literature review on this, which is usually the general route for research, and then let's go on with
Yeah.
this. I'm feeling like, okay, this is working. And so I go ahead
Mm.
and do all of this, and then by the time I have to present it, she calls another of her colleague from another university who I've worked with closely. And this
Mm-hmm.
gentleman, I've presented to him many times. He's been very supportive. He's been someone who he wouldn't attack the idea, but attack maybe the perspective around it and just let you know why not see from this perspective. Always very helpful. Lo
Yeah.
and behold, he comes into this meeting and he's like, nope, nope, this will not work. I don't care about this. This is a bad data set.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm looking like, okay, what's happening? And so at some point, I'm like, I appreciate your perspective. Can you point to the exact problem? You've said a lot of things. He's like,
Mm.
the data set is bad. I'm like, how? He's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you can't trust all the data sets. I'm like, okay, so how do I find the right? Like at this point, let's all just talk solution. How do I find the right data set? Mind you, this is a data set that we've been using all along. So to be
Mm.
told that this was the wrong data set, so well, let me round
So
this
she
story
just
up.
she just got somebody to come and stand in, so it doesn't look like I'm not picking on you, but you see, this is
Exactly.
another authority saying to you that this is rubbish. Gosh,
Exactly. That was
that's
exactly
some
what
level
happened.
of meanness.
So eventually,
Gosh.
I just realized what was at play. And so I started to seek another professor. And to be honest, everyone I spoke to told me, don't do it. Don't do it because the retribution it will fall. It will be
Mm.
hard. And I'm careful because this is a global platform.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, all of the people I could have spoken to about this all happen to be of the same ethnicity as this person. I mean, I've been in a meeting with all of them and they go on to speak their own national language entirely. Very,
Wow.
very, as we'll put it in a circle, very unsocially aware. So I didn't know
In
what
front
to
of
do.
you.
In front of
Hmm.
me, I didn't know what to do. I just knew God had to fight this battle for me. And so I remember that one day I was going with huffing and puffing like I'm going, even if I have to go legal and bang, 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 bang. As I was going, Holy Spirit
Illegally.
asked me, said, do you want to fight or do you want to graduate? Say, Lord,
Ah, Lord, I want to graduate, please help
I want
me.
to graduate. He just told me, so calm down. It's not fight.
Hmm.
This fight is not your fight. And
Hmm.
so I eventually found a professor. Thankfully, I connected with this professor a while before then, and I'd offered to work free of charge with him. So I connected with him, and he's like, ah, fine, I'll take you as my student, but you have to make sure this is clear with this other professor. So I had to go to her. And believe you me, that's the easiest conversation I've had with that woman in nearly 6 years.
She was
I
happy to
walk in.
let you go. She couldn't send you away. She couldn't.
I just walked in and said, I truly believe you're maybe focused on another research direction, and maybe I'm not aligned with it. So there's some difference in, in just how we're approaching this. And so I think it might be helpful if I work with someone. She's like, that's it. That's it. I said, no problem. I wish you all the best. That's all. That's all.
Why
I'm
didn't you
talking
say this in the first year, ma?
I'm talking this whole conversation less than a minute because I got to a point where I record conversations with her because she would come back and say no. So I was recording this
Yes.
conversation and I'm like, this is less than a minute long conversation. So that's how I started to work with this other professor. And you would think that the problem stopped there, right? No,
It didn't.
it did
Hey,
not.
Lord have mercy. This is a Nollywood movie right here. Oh.
It turned out that this gentleman, this new professor, has her as his senior peer mentor because he wasn't tenured. And so while he took me on and it seemed like all was well, it looked like in the backyard, she was mounting a lot
They
of
were looking
pressure.
and discussing you.
So
Mm.
we had this agreement and I was working. Like I'm like, at this point, I'm just gonna do the work I need to do. And then a couple months in, he just calls me and says, you cannot graduate, you have to change to a master's. I'm like, why?
What is this?
I'm like, sir, why? He's like, well, you have to go face your family. I'm like, first and foremost,
Did my family come to meet you? Like, I don't understand.
ah,
This your professor had family too. You said she was just coming back from,
yes,
maternity when you met her. So I don't
yes.
understand the whole.
It was just weird. First and foremost, I asked him, sir, do you know how many children I have? He said no. I said, so how can you speak of a
Where's this
family
family?
you know
Like,
nothing about? And have I ever one day told you I couldn't do any task
use any
because
excuse for family?
I was like, to God be the glory. I've never had to sleep with any of my children in the hospital to say, please, oh, I couldn't submit something because of this. So
Mhm.
why and how? Like at this point, let's all just be talking like adults that we are. And he's like,
Mhm.
well, I just feel like it's a distraction. I'm like, there's no distraction here. Now, if you tell me there is a performance indices that I'm not meeting, it's a different case. Show it to me. Give
And
me a
let me
chance to
improve on it.
rectify it. Send me
Yeah.
to a college committee if you will, but you cannot give me that reason. Well, he insisted, he's like, well, you just have to. Um,
Principalities. Oh. Hey, Father in heaven.
Eventually, I went to the college and I asked, okay, what does it take to transfer to master's? They told me, they said, but you, as if the lady knew was happy, said, but you have no requirements to do that. Your only option is to graduate. That's all. Like you fulfilled everything for graduation, you have all your credit, you have to graduate. So I told her, I said, well, this is what they're saying. It's like, well, can we work now? Like, okay, let's work. So I'm working, 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 and I'm doing all of this, and we're just working, working, and just kind of fast forward to the story. Every couple months, he would just come and say, "You have to change. You have to change," or whatever. At this point, I'm glad that giving you Bas goes back. So um, now, I would say about a month before I was allowed to defend for my doctoral dissertation, he comes and says, "You cannot graduate." At this point, I throw all
With
the
these people
emotional.
and your graduation. That like did they send them from the village? I'm trying to understand. What is it?
What
To
is
send them
this?
because you cannot graduate. Why?
Why? He's like, well, um, you have to have three papers to graduate and you don't have any. I'm like, sir, when I signed up with you, that was the first question I asked. You told me I needed
Mhm,
two papers to graduate. You told me that was your requirement. Well, of those two
mhm,
papers, we have written a draft for one, we're about to send it. We have half the draft for the second one based contingent on our research. And so that's pretty much it. And by the way, the
mhm.
college doesn't even require any papers to graduate. You determine that. So it's in your hand
You
when
are
I
the one.
graduate,
Mhm.
figuratively, because I know in whose real hand it is that I graduate. So I said, this thing
Absolutely.
this doesn't hold. And so it was a little bit of a shouting match, and he hung up the phone. I was frustrated that day. My kids, for the first time, they really saw me. I was crying, and they came, "Are you okay, mommy?" I'm like, "I'm just frustrated. Like, I'm so sorry." Just, they just they knew enough to let me be, but just be there for me from afar, from across the glass door of my study. And so he calls back and apologizes to say he didn't mean to sound so mean. But this previous professor had called him. She was in another country at that time, and told him she wasn't going to sign off on me graduating except I had three papers. And so that she had told him
In
plainly.
fact, she was still controlling the matter. Ah, they sent
Exactly.
this woman.
And so he
This
just
is
told
from
me,
the village.
he said, just do the best you can. I will talk to her, but follow me. Like, don't make anything, don't, essentially, don't come back with any
Me, I'm not the
excuses.
enemy. I'm not the
Like,
enemy.
just if
Work
I
with
ask you
me.
to do something, just do it. Just work with me. I'm like, no problem. So shortly after, he comes back to say, you know what? We can go ahead with dissertation defense. I'm like, wonderful. Schedule this thing. First was I've been emailing this woman for months and months to sit in and go over my work. She was on my committee and everything. She wouldn't even reply the email. When I sent an email for defense, she's replying, I'm not available. What day are you available? This day. This time? No, I'm not available. This other, not available. I told her today, we follow each other. It's okay. I've never seen her respond in my 7 years. I've never seen her respond to an email so quickly. Eventually, we locked in a time and scheduled it. Come defense day, put up a wonderful defense. I truly believe my work was a wonderful. You know, when you say I owned the work and I put in the work, I was sure of that. And so I did everything. And then now, there's a part where the audience quizzes you, and I was able to answer that. And then the professor's quiz is usually a closed room session, everyone left. Usually it takes maybe about 30 to 45 minutes, typically. I was there for 2 hours. She questioned everything, everything, everything. Why these data sets? Why would you use this and this? Why would you do this? Why would you use this? Why would you use this topic? Why would you use this word? The variable is not correct. At some point, I had to tell her, I said, ma'am, the variables, I didn't choose them. They were the things the research presented. She's like, well, it doesn't make sense. They should bring one very unscientific explanation in the middle of it. My work had to do with some use of blood work indices. And she's like, that doesn't make sense. If your blood is sticky, I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I don't even handle the specimen, so I don't know what that means. I'm telling you
Mhm.
exactly what results my research presented. She's like, well, I don't believe it's true. And then I step out, and then they call me back.
Mm.
And typically, this is when you get the glory of having a doctorate degree, and they welcome you back as, please, can we welcome Dr. So and so? Well, they opened the door for me and they told me, good job. I'm like, what does that mean? Great effort. I'm like, I'm standing in the room. No one's meeting my eye. No one's talking to me. Everyone's packing their stuff and leaving. So I'm like, can someone talk to me and let me know what's happening? They're like,
Oh
well,
my God.
we're not going to sign off on you graduating now, but you've done well. You need to go back, essentially go back to analysis and start this work all over again. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The grief, the sheer grief of that. I just
No.
I wept all the way home. Like you say weep. I wept. I couldn't
Mm.
believe it. I'm asking my professor, what does this mean? It's like, let's talk on Monday. I'm like, what do you mean?
You couldn't
And
get through to Monday. Are you joking?
it was horrible. And so, and coincidentally, at this time, I was moving to another city because I had gotten a job, which was contingent on me graduating and all of that. So it was, can't even begin to imagine. I can't even begin to explain how heartbreaking it was. But I'm like, well, we move. We move. Like, I'm packing up my stuff. But I think what really broke my heart was seeing my children because they knew I'd been in this effort. I'd let them know. I mean, they're young. I want them to see what hard work looks like and the result of it. So they come and like, yay, mommy defended. And like, yay, what's going on? And they're seeing me weeping. And they're like, does it mean you're not done? I'm like, yes. And so they didn't even know how to handle it because this is missed summers and all sorts of wonderful things that we're as a family because of this degree. And we've been telling them this will soon be over, it will pay off, we'll have our time together and everything. They didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. My husband's there trying to be a rock and trying to not it was something. So eventually, and there are many, I mean, there are layers to the story. You remember my mentor professor who I met along the way. He had
First
been
guy,
in
yeah.
that committee as well, but when I switched professors, I had unknowingly switched him from a co-advisor to a regular committee member,
Mm.
and I didn't even know there was any implications to that. So when all of this happened,
He couldn't
there was
speak.
he knew there was grand injustice here, but he couldn't speak for me. And so
Couldn't
when I
speak
called
because he
him,
was no longer co-advisor. Oh,
he called me. He was mad. He was livid. He's like, I don't know how and when you did this, but this was the moment for me to have championed your cause. And I can't. So it's like I'm just a fly on the wall in this instance. I'm just gonna watch. I'm out of field. I'm just a signature at this point. It was it was so he
but
just
you had all the aces. Even the
she
other
had
guy
ages.
that finally
Yes.
supervised you, he
He
couldn't
he
talk.
he couldn't say anything because he's still a junior
He's
peer
still
mentor.
under her.
And then the other professor, this was the one I told you initially, who had told me, no, 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 no. He was on this
Yeah, yeah.
committee. It turns out, and this was just me, randomly searching. It turns out that my initial professor, this other professor, were both on my now new professor's committee when he was a doctoral student years ago. So they already hold something, over him that he would likely pander to their opinions. So it was essentially three against one
Hey,
without.
wait, just hold on. My head is spinning because how can this be happening in a Western country? Like these
Ah,
are the kind of things that would happen in a state university in Nigeria
yes,
that you say
yes,
because there's injustice, because
yes,
there's no structure.
yes.
That's why somebody can treat me like this. How can this be happening in wow?
It tells you that injustice just changes codes from country to country. You
Oh my
know,
God.
it was at this. It was crazy. I remember the Holy Spirit told me, "I will fight for you. You want to graduate, right? I'll fight. Don't fight
Lord,
because
when are you fighting, sir? Because you're
look."
taking too long.
At this point, I was already seeking legal advice. I was already like, I need to know and
What are my options? You
what my
see?
options are. And that it doesn't help that
Oh my
I'm in a
God.
foreign land essentially. So
Yes.
skills kind of it feels tipped in a sense. So anyway, eventually,
Oh my God.
first week after all of this whole debacle, I had gone to resume at this job and I let them know what was going on. And they're like, that's fine, we'll give you some time to sort out all of that out. In the meantime, just settle in and everything. And I think I'll save that story for another time because that one was its own other grief in a sense. But I reached my professor and he just told me, look, I don't agree with what this professor said in this meeting. It was rubbish. We've been calling her to look into this research for so long. If she wanted to say something about it, that was her chance. She eventually came in on the last session and she thought everything was wonderful. So why at this research? She just told me, don't even bother about it. Don't worry, I'll figure out a way around this. Just change the topic, change, a few words here and there, do this image a little bit different, just essentially superficial touch up and everything, and let's turn it in. So that's what I did. And so I did all of that and sent it to him and I left it in God's hands. At this point,
This point. At
I've
this
been
point.
I've been carrying cortisol, stress year
Ah,
to year. The other job I told you I went to resume, the contract was terminated after we had moved. So I had to move back. So I was a walking, breathing children of Israelites
oh
statue,
my God. Oh
statuette of
my
sorts.
God.
I just knew that God had to make a way out of all of this. And I think the way everything ended was the climax in a sense, because the day that my paper was due to be turned in, I didn't I've been emailing, no one's responding. So I just told myself, today I'm going to go eat ice cream.
On your own. I will
I'm
turn
going
it
to
in.
go. I'm going to go do my nails. I'm not even going to bother myself. I just told myself it's too much. It's too much. I need to relax. And so I did that, and then I got a surprise email from the department to say, um, I was emailing to let you know there was a deadline, but I said let me do one last check, and I found that all your papers been signed, so you're good to go. I don't know how God did it. I refused to ask who signed what happened. They just told me you are good. Turn in your
What does that
dissertation.
mean? You are good,
Somehow,
Bao. Somehow
somehow in
that
the mix of the whole thing, she chose to sign. Till this minute, I think I've only set eyes on her one time. I did not ask anything. I greeted her. I
there's no
vamoosed.
need.
There was no
There's no
need.
need.
And so even the papers that I had worked on, out of the blues, accepted. In fact, when at my actual graduation last December, my professor kept saying, I have never seen anything like this. I've never seen a paper accepted so quickly. I've never seen anything. Then he told me, he said, because we had planned to rework the paper. You know how research goes. You then take out some data and then you rework it and you get another result. He said I had planned to do that with you, but the former professor said, well, if this paper was accepted so quickly, she wanted to use the leverage for her own student. And so she quickly grabbed those information, gave her student, and asked that one to
Then to
rework
quickly
it
work on it.
and submit
Mm.
it. Guess what? As they were submitting it, they were dapadine.
They're
They were
passing it.
rejecting the paper.
They don't know that your own submission was your own acceptance was divine. Jokers.
So he was the one telling me, which on the sense was sort of a betrayal because I'm like, we had intended to do this together. That would have been more, accolades to my work. But he was telling me
Yeah,
they rejected it so quickly, and for reasons they couldn't even fathom, that they just realized, okay, it looks like whatever worked is not working anymore. He couldn't stop saying it. I've never seen anything like this. I've never. I'm like, sir, it could only be God. And so that was
the
that
God
was
of
essentially it.
Elijah. Speech. Hmm.
That was
Oh, wow.
that essentially, and that was a very long-winded explanation, but that was my experience. That was my
Oh
experience.
my
And so, I mean, the topic says from pain, sorry, I
shame
have
to
it.
strength.
Yes,
Shame to
pain to
strength.
strength. Yes, shame to strength. Because at some point, I just became known as the department staple. Students are coming, students are going, they're graduating, they're leaving me there. I'm advising, I'm the one giving all the sage advices and everything, and then suddenly all of this, and now I've graduated, but it didn't quite end there. At some point, even the department, it almost felt like they couldn't put credence to what I had earned. It's almost like someone wants to insinuate and say they just let you go. I'm like, no, 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 no one let me go. No one let me go. I worked hard for it. I worked hard for it. And so also all of that experience, because I remember there were times I would pray and cry and say, God, you can get me out of here. Why are you making me stay here? And God would tell me, you need to do this work. This work, you will walk it to the end so that no one
Mm.
can say you didn't do the work. And so that was
Yeah.
what I was able to present. And so eventually, after all of the brouhaha, everything, there was a whole fallout that I don't think time will permit me to begin to explain. You know, I started to just churn all of that pain and just put it into strength. First was I felt shut down. I felt like I needed to hide. I felt ashamed in a sense, even if I had no reason to be. But I had to sit down and just review all of my experiences to say, okay, there's something here. In fact, I started to just believe there was a reason why I was dragged all through those 7 years. And there was something I needed to learn here. There was just something. And so once I had graduated, sort of gotten some fresh air. I'm still, I would say, I'm still healing because, of course, this journey you kind of have to work through that trauma. It was a huge
Lot.
trauma.
It was a lot.
It
Even
was a
just
lot.
listening to it now, I'm having trauma. I'm like, what the heck?
Exactly.
I was telling you that I wanted to do PhD. I'm really thinking,
I
share it
remember.
like this. Let me come and stay in my father's house
No,
because
no,
I'm
you,
not
you,
even doing this.
no, don't
But
worry. Your experience will be better than mine. I truly believe. I don't
amen.
believe it's like
Because
that for everyone because I had colleagues who
what?
who I had worked alongside with. In fact, I had just met up with one of them this past week. When I told him everything, his mouth was open. Like, you went through all of this. We started together. He
It's
left me by the fourth year. He graduated. He's doing
Mm.
wonderful in his own field. But I just realized that I could either stay buried in the way I was feeling, and that would have been the real victory over me, not me
Yes.
graduating. The real victory wasn't me changing to masters or the real victory out of that thing that they would have had was had me shut down. So I told
Mm.
myself, no, I'm not going to do that. And so while I was still, I mean, at this point, I had lost one very lucrative job opportunity. And of course, with the job market right now, and it's like that world over. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't getting anything quickly. I was really, I won't say I was depressed, but I was really feeling just, did I do all of this for naught and all of that? I told myself, well, I wasn't going to sit there. And so I just started to apply myself. I started to engage in the development of other college students. I'd gained a wealth of experience that no one could take away from me. And so I just started to teach people. And they'll hear me speak and they're just like, wow, we need more of
Mm.
this. We need more of this. We
Yeah.
need more of this. I just started to apply myself. At my church currently, I lead the education and career development segment of the church. That's
Mm.
like an arm of the church where we're not just dealing spiritually things or spiritual things. Now we're dealing with career development,
Yeah.
core, stripped of everything. And so I kind of lead that. I'm educating people, I'm helping them understand this is how you can apply yourself. This is what you can do with your experience. This is what you need to be able to, to be able to succeed. I hear people come tell me, oh, I don't think I can do it. I'm like, if I could do it and I did not quit in at any time in 7 years, you can do it. I happen to work with a lot of women who after having children, some of them four, three children, they're like, I need to go back. I'm like, you can do it. I did like I found that I became effortlessly an inspiration to a lot of people. And so after I graduated, I can count at least 4 or 5 other women who had the courage to go back to school and who are either already graduated or on their way to graduating. And so I just told myself I was just going to run with it. I was just going to own my experience. I determined I wasn't going to let the bitterness of those years hold me back because I'm telling you, it was real, right? I just told myself I won't do that, but I will work with, as many as will present themselves to me. So don't even mention you want to go to school near me. You have a champion for life. You have a champion for life. I'm telling you, this is what you can do.
That day, how you just carried it. It was even me that now ran that. Okay, I'm not really ready like that. I was just asking.
It's
Took off like
like I just told
yeah,
myself,
absolutely.
and to be honest, I think my passion just became for people who, especially if they feel like they didn't like maybe this was the end for them or I'm too old, I have too many children. I'm like, forget all of us are
Mm.
doing old people school together. Your children will be crying in the background, you'll be studying, and we'll kind of laugh up. And I just encourage them. And I let them know I said it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard. But we're not going to run away from hard things. We're going to do hard things and do it well. We're going to inspire children. And, along that journey, my children were my inspiration. That's the truth. I'll tell myself my daughter is going to be in this junction one day as a young mom,
She will remember
and
how
she'll
she saw her
remember.
mother power
Exactly.
through it.
So
These memories are everything.
I told myself there is nothing that's going to make me quit. I'm going to stay here. So even now, I
Mm.
mean, they're in what elementary school. I tell them, do you remember when I was studying? You got to
Mm.
study. You have to, there is no,
Yeah,
I'm like,
there are no
but I mean,
shortcuts.
there's no shortcut. There is just one way to it, and you just got to do it well. And so
Oh
that's
my God.
essentially my my experience. And I mean, in retrospect, I thank God in retrospect for how He brought
Oh,
me through and just all the lessons that I learned along the way.
still in awe. I'm still in awe, Anita. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And
Mhm.
I mean, the way you have compressed the story, I know it wasn't this short, it wasn't this easy
Mhm.
because you are talking about 7 years. So I can imagine how long and drawn out each of these were, good God. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was only God that could bring you out of it because really this was just so unbelievable. And when we go through things like this, we always tell ourselves, I mean, thank God that we did not run mad.
Mhm.
Because for less than this, some people would have developed a mental health issue that they
Absolutely.
can't come back from, that they will not be going from one house to another,
To the
trying to
other,
get killed.
absolutely.
And so it is just the grace of God that
Mhm.
really kept you through. And the most interesting part now is that now, with all you've gone through, with this, your story is building other people.
Yes.
And this is what we keep on
Yes.
saying every day. We keep on saying every day. What? Okay, somebody has to write it now. You have a question, write it. Why are you telling me yes? It's the right question. No, we don't have. We cannot ask you. We can't bring you up. This is YouTube. I was just asking if anybody had any question for you because oh my God, I have questions, but my chest is just doing me like I know I'm mindful of your time. I know you're gonna have to
Oh,
go
no
soon,
problem.
but I'm just thinking that. All right, I'm just thinking about this that when you were going through all of this,
Mm.
what was the one thing that powered you through? I mean, because sometimes when we hear about people going through stuff, and I really love your story because many people always say, oh, we always think that, oh, it's only waiting for a child
Mm.
or waiting for a life partner or looking for a
Mm-hmm.
job or I didn't we always think that there are some few things that can be
Yeah.
the bengen things.
Yeah.
We never do realize that in everybody's life, in everybody's space, there's one thing somebody's going through. They will see you from us and say, Anita is in a PhD. They
Absolutely.
are not even, they have no idea what you're going
What I
through.
was going
You have
through.
to, wash your, and a family at home will be calling you, asking for money, all those kind of things. You have to wash your face when you're coming out there. You cannot,
Mm-hmm.
all those tears, all those days of when you're really feeling so low. What
Mm-hmm.
kept you waking up again,
Mm.
going
Mm.
back again? What was it? Because I mean, for less than this, some people that just say, you know what, that's it. Give me the masters, let me be going
Honestly,
because
honestly,
what is
honestly.
it? Is it even by force? So what kept you going? What kept you going?
Yes, and thank you for that question. And so I think I'll answer that question in as practically as possible.
Mhm,
Well, without fail, and I hope you heard it in my story, God was my mainstay because there were
mm,
times I wanted to give up. In fact, I would just be a little bit vulnerable. I remember by my third year, I was driving one day and I happened
mm,
to not have my kids in the car. And I mean, I was driving as fast as 90 miles per hour.
mm,
I was flying. And when I
mm.
came to like, what's going on? Like, Anita, you could harm yourself. I remember that fleeting thought that told me, it's fine, the kids are not here and their
Yeah,
dad will take care of
not
them.
even that.
Because of the pressure,
God.
you know. But God was my stay. And right around that time, this wonderful woman of God attends my church. She called me. In fact, we didn't even talk at that time. And she gave me a scripture: Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord
Mm,
is risen upon you. And she spoke to me. And I told her, I said, you don't even know how you saved me in this instance because perhaps that day or maybe the days just around that whole call, I had fleetingly considered self-harm, right? But God will continually send his word and just keep me
mm,
going at that time, right? And then aside from that, and I don't even want to diminish that, but I want to give some other practical things that I found to be helpful. Aside
okay.
from that, my children, my family, I just always told myself, these days that I'm living out are gonna be their what they're gonna remember when they grow old.
Yeah,
And so
anchor. Absolutely.
they need to be able to remember this time and be able to draw inspiration from it. Because guess what?
Mm.
I also drew inspiration from my mother when she was
Yeah.
going through Yaba Tech back then. She'll tell me how her parents
Wow.
didn't want her to go to school, how her father refused to send her money. She would famously told me she had two shoes, one for church, one for every day, and she had two dresses that she will always exchange with her sister so that it doesn't look like it's the same two dresses, and how she will cry.
Mm,
And even if my mother has gone to be with the Lord now, I still draw inspiration from that story. And I remind myself these
mm,
children will draw inspiration from my story one day.
absolutely.
So that would
Absolutely.
always keep me going because I could have quit. When I tell you I did well in masters, I did well. But if I had
Mhm.
chosen to go through a PhD, I told myself I have to complete it. There's just
Right?
no point.
Because you already had a master's. What are they talking about? It was that part that was busting my head. You cannot graduate. Who are you to tell me that I cannot
Who are
graduate? Are you
you? At
deemed?
some
Are you
point,
God? Are you the
I'm
owner
telling
of
you,
the university?
at
What
some
is
point,
it?
she told me that in her office, and I told her, Ma, I will graduate. Like I literally pointed to her and said, "It is not in your power.
Who
You
are
think it is in
you?
your power, but it is not." And she's just looking at me. So I'm not being comforted. In fact, remember one of this, she's like, "Calm down. You don't." I'm like, "I'm not. I'm calm." I'm as calm as can
Come
be.
on, calming
Don't
matter.
stop
Yeah.
telling me. I
Stop
told her, stop
speaking
telling
rubbish
me.
into my life.
You
This
know,
is it.
I had to, as it were, confront it. Like I had to realize there was a principality behind this, and is
Absolutely.
word for word. So if you're going to tell me I can't, I will tell you I can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is something that we need to take seriously as
Yes.
Christians. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we are saying, oh, you're in a situation that, because it's an elderly person, person of authority, I
Mm-hmm.
take it back immediately. They know me in my office. They'll
Yes.
be like, oh, Madam Spiritual. I'm like,
It's
whatever.
okay.
Like immediately. I
It's
don't even let
okay.
it land.
Oh
Because what
yes.
is it? Don't
Why
come
why
and
do you
speak
keep
into my
telling me?
life.
I told her it's not in your power. I understand that you have a signature to sign, but let's be clear on where the power dynamics lies here, right?
Do you understand?
And the third thing, and I think this is what I wanted to hint on, I found fitness to be a lifeline because
Mm,
I needed to do something with that stress. And I mean,
mm,
what would other people likely do? They would likely dabble into something illegal. I told myself I wasn't
mm,
going to do that. I'm a person of faith. I love the Lord. And I found fitness to be a lifeline. So I started to work out. I would, in the
mm.
middle of my day, I know there's a report to turn in. I'm going to the gym, I'm putting on my work. So that was it.
Putting that anger on the,
In the
on the
weights.
machines.
Oh Jesus. That became it for me. To be honest, towards the end, that was a lifeline for me because
Mm,
when the pressure was much, I would actually work out the problems on the equipment. And I remember there's this in the gym where I work out. There's another lady who is a PhD. She's a professor in another university. So she understands the journey, and so she would see me work out and she would tap me and say, "Come back, come back, come back," because you can tell I'm there, but I'm not there. I'm lifting the weights, I'm thinking of the problem. Lifting the weight, thinking of the problem. So that to me was a really practical, helpful tool. And I kept telling all other graduate students, I'm like, you pay for the gym. The school makes you pay for it. Use it. Use it. Don't allow yourself succumb to the stress of it. And I tell you, there were many people that I saw like that. There was this lady along my journey, she had started out with a PhD as well, but along the way she gave birth to triplets, and turned out that
right.
um, she wasn't married, she was engaged, and the gentleman fled once he realized she had the
The
triplets.
guy said, three, who's gonna pay for this?
My
He took off.
goodness! And
What
so
a terrible
in the same experience, because we had the same professor, the professor told her to change to a master's, and she did. And she did. And I look back and I'm like, I wonder where she would have been. Was it a difficult situation? Absolutely. There was
man.
no point at which I denied what I was going through. I told myself, this is hard, but
Mm,
it is not the hardest thing ever. And so if that were the case, I'm gonna go through this. So I just needed to dig in and find resilience. And I think I'll add this, for bonus points. At the time
yeah.
when I found the Masterpiece Mentorship Program, was about year five
Mm,
of this journey for me. And I thought I was in the program to help me launch and graduate. I didn't know I was going to spend extra years. But all of the I dare tos were part of what kept me going. I told myself, and I think in a sense I felt like, oh, maybe I didn't maximize my time. But in retrospect, that journey was to make sure I graduated because I was already on premium breaking point at that time. I was already feeling
yeah.
like
It was what
maybe
you needed to push you to the next step.
it needed to push me. So, just in practical terms for everyone listening, I mean, you want to hold on to God. You want to find the source of inspiration around you, something that keeps you going. Fitness was wonderful for me. Fitness was great for me. And just surround yourself with community. For me, it was the masterpiece mentorship program. That was
Masterpiece.
the community
Mm,
for me. Watching all of these women also achieve things gave me the audacity to do it. In fact, and the
mm.
last year of this journey was when, if you remember, Pelumi, who did the London to Lagos drive.
Yes, yes, yes,
She
yes,
happens to be
yes,
someone
yes.
I know personally. I told
Oh,
myself this. I said, this woman doesn't know. She just gave me the audacity it
another
took to finish
reason.
this. So
Yeah,
just surrounding
absolutely.
yourself with, with a community, whether virtual
Right,
or
inspiration.
physical,
Mhm,
inspiration to
mhm.
keep going. Those were my lifeline, I would say, that kept me going.
Amazing, amazing. Like, oh my God, I could listen to you all day, Anita. I'm thinking, this story, when are you writing this story in a book?
I knew you were gonna ask that
Because
question.
because there's no way that this story should not come together in a book.
Hmm.
It is
Yeah.
something. And a lot of women on the call today, they are connecting with your story. They're not in academics,
Mm,
but they're connecting with their story. They're saying, "Oh my God, you've inspired me today. Oh my God, this, and someone says, everybody, every single person is, attesting to the fact that you've inspired them by sharing the story. And
mm,
they are not in academics. They cannot relate. They don't have professor that is in the abroad. They cannot relate. But guess what? There's something in each story for
mm,
the next person. There's always something in
absolutely.
your story. And as you told it, you may have thought that you were just telling us one nice story that flew over our heads. But no, we connected every part of the way, every part of the way. When you said you found the lecturer and the professor, and she just from the beginning just told you, I mean,
Hmm.
somebody somewhere that would have said, "Oh, that my boss that
Yeah.
never liked me." Okay, so it can relate. Every step of
Yes.
everything that you shared, they can relate because it's simply, oh wow. So even people that are abroad, they're not even their life is not that easy like that. So,
No.
they are going through stuff, you know.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I love that you shared the story, and I'm
Mm.
encouraging you to write it. You know how we do. Go and
I
write a
know,
book
I know, I
first,
know. I'm
first
on
things
it.
first.
I'm on it.
Yes, you see, somebody has confirmed you definitely need to write a book. But I really, really thank you today for sharing with us. This has
Mm,
been a powerful, powerful story. It has really touched on many things. And ladies, you heard her. It's God. God is the one
mm,
that powers you through everything. God is the owner of your life. He's the one that you listen to. He's the one that will tell you what to do per
absolutely.
time that helps you to power. Because at the end of the day, I always wonder people that don't have God, how do they live? How do they
How
survive?
do they
I don't know
live?
how. I don't know how. Just today, I was coming on this as I was coming home. Remember, I sent you a message at 6 to say, "Oh my God, the traffic in front of me
Yeah.
is high." But when I drove out of my school, I came from LBS. I drove out at about 5:25 or almost 5:30, and I said, "Hey God, I wanted to leave on dot of 5, but they're busy doing announcements, all kinds of things." I said, "Listen, guys, me, I have to be home for 7," and I already heard there was traffic. So
Yeah.
as I drove out at 5:30, I said, "Lord, I know it's not impossible for you to get me home in an hour. Please get me
Mm,
home in an hour. I really want to get home in time for this." So it was now free. I was driving, speeding. I was like, "Oh God, you're doing well." I was laughing and smiling then. And I entered one traffic. I said, "Hey," and I called my husband on the phone. I said, "Oh, Mo, my husband has this app. This is to check traffic." I said, "Mo, help me check the traffic because I've entered one that is not moving." And those kind of traffic that people start
yeah.
selling stuff. I'm like, it's all over. So he checked and he's like, "Oh, Mo," he said, "You still have a long stretch ahead of you." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I'm like, "There, look." So I just sent you the message. Say, what's the worst that will happen? We'll do it later.
I know,
Nobody can
right?
come and they can't come and beat me. I will sure be coming. But as I kept on driving, I put my phone on the dashboard because I was
Mm,
listening to music or something. And then I saw a message coming from one of my children's school groups. One of the mothers had said, because they were all trying to do school run, they had bigger problems.
mm,
I wasn't even picking children, but I was just there. And next I saw a message, say, "Is the coastal road open?" And that person said, "Yes, it is." And I thought, oh, I'd completely forgotten. I can take the coastal road because it takes me to my house faster. So
mm-hmm,
I just the minute I saw that message, I was at the junction which I could connect to Coastal Road. I
mm,
just immediately turned. And guess what? While I was still trying to think about it, the last man stopped in
woo,
front of my car. So he stopped us. And so I had enough time to think about how to move into that road to connect it. And I was like,
mm,
God, could it be that Coastal Road is going to help me? I said, okay, let's try. Meanwhile, I have a pass to go on the Coastal Road. Coastal Road is blocked. It's not open freely because they're still
yes.
working on it. But I have a pass because I have a project in that direction. So I thought,
Mm,
okay, worst case, I'll go by the pass. So I drive into the streets and I go down to the end and I find the place is blocked. I come back again, turn around, go to the other side, find a way, and they say, "Madam, find something for the boys, Ikate boys, Ikate Elekuji boys." I said, I first held 1,000 because I've heard that they dash those boys money. But when the guy said, "Just give me anything, mama, anything," I just, in this case, maybe like 500 will work. Now, why should I give him 1,000 first? Second 500, he was like,
no.
he cleared the road. I said, wow. So I went on and I got to the part where we're supposed to get on the coastal road now. And then I started looking for my pass. It's
Mm,
always in my car. Just get
oh
to the
my
I couldn't find.
goodness.
Guy said, "Mama, if you can't find it, just give us something you can pass." I was like, another 500 naira, and he just let me go. And before you know, I was like, even my kids that were stuck on the road because the driver had been, keep in touch with me, saying,
Mm,
we're still here. 1 hour, they were still in one spot. He said he had told the nanny that they should just come down and walk. My house is 5 minutes from the school. It's like, but they were
mm,
stuck for 1 hour.
on the
So then
road, yeah.
just come down and walk while he goes back to get the other boy who was at after school. So that's how they came down. So when I found my way, I'd come, I now called them. I said, you on the way, let me pick you guys. I said, they've already reached the estate gate. I was like, wow. So that's how all of us got home. I got home maybe like 6:40 or 6:45-ish,
Mm,
before I could gather myself, children. And I said, and I just sat there and I thought, wow. When I left the LBS, I did mention that. I didn't pray. I just mentioned it like, God, it would be
yeah,
nice to get home.
yeah.
It was almost impossible to me. I just thought, people had complained that being in traffic for 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, my children's school that was near my house, they had not moved in the 1 hour.
Mm,
Yet I somehow made it all the way from LBS to
wow.
my house, which is like normally an hour's journey when there's no traffic. But that day that it should have been maybe anything like from 2 to 3 hours.
Mm,
And I just made it because I just
wow.
mentioned it. And I just kept on saying, Holy Spirit, I thank you. Because
Yes.
one of the odds that one would have sent that message at that time, so it would have popped up on my phone because I wouldn't have been checking the phone. I was driving. It
Mm-hmm.
just popped up.
Yeah.
It's the Costa. I said, Bro, Dale, I did not remember the Coastal Road
That,
as an option.
yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that is really how God just directs our lives. Day by day, when it looks like it's too tough, He sends in word. You talked about the woman who shared her word with you. He sends word, He sends things. It's always, always, always there with us. And so that's the benefit of being Christians, benefit of being children of God. Milk kids. Do you
Milk
understand?
it. Absolutely.
Or $10 daughter wanted to marry the other. They told their father that buy this house to be nice for my wedding. He bought it. That's the benefit of being a $10 daughter. You can buy a
Yeah.
full house just for your wedding. Do you see?
I
Tomorrow,
love
your
it.
father, who is the owner of heaven and earth. We
Yes.
sometimes don't remember what it is to be God's children. We don't remember. We just think that anything happens to me, you just be crying and wailing. When you finish crying, clear your eyes and say, Hey, Father, so which
What
way?
are we doing? Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
He will not let you pass through needless pain.
Mm,
Like you said,
mm.
He said you needed to do the work. There
Yes.
was a reason. You've passed through that system. You've spent those years. Now you're being blessing to other people. If you are just breezed through, you may not have been able to have anything to tell the other
Oh
people.
yeah.
You would have been,
Oh yeah.
oh, she's all right. You just go. You'll be all right. But because it was so strenuous and arduous for you, by the time you have
Mm-hmm.
come from the other side, you have more than enough to share, to
Yes.
bless others that are coming. And that is the way our lives are been structured.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
At this point, I could go on and on, but I just need to round up here because it has been such an amazing time with you tonight, Anita. I'm
Thank
so excited
you.
you came on live today. This has been Women's Matters, brought to you every Tuesday by WGA, the Women's Growth Academy. We're a
Mm-hmm.
community of women who just love God and who try to grow together in our own love of God and love of family and just being better persons each day, realizing who we are created to be. And of course, my book is still on sale, Rise Right Raw.
Yes.
How to amplify you by owning your own story. We're talking about owning your own story. I mean, Anita told you guys about how she got to share this story today. That wasn't what she initially picked, but that was the one that God allowed to be available for her because He needed her to share this story to bless you. And that is really how our lives are supposed to be. So thank you all for coming tonight. Anita, last words for our guests. If you wanted
Uh,
to remember one thing only from today's conversation, what would it be?
yes. If just one thing I would say, life is hard, plain and
Mm,
simple. But in it, we have a super advantage. We have a super advantage in the communities that God has put us in. We have a super advantage, most of all, in God Himself. You
mm,
know, I have long told myself I'm not going to pretty up the
mm,
hardness. You know, this was not a hardness God planned for us, but from creation and from that fall, it has continued to be hard. Then what do we do with it? We just
mm.
take that lifeline that God has given us and just run with it. And so, regardless of where you are, you know, it might seem like a small problem compared to what I've shared. It might seem bigger than what I have shared. Hold on to God. Hold on to Him. There's just no other way.
Same
You know,
principle.
there is just no other way. And when I
Absolutely.
mean hold on to God, it doesn't necessarily mean go to church more often or join a prayer group more often. just connect to him as father, because that was it for me. There were times I just went, I'm like, you're just going to watch your daughter just keep going. But at every time, he raised comfort, he raised help. It came sometimes in songs, it came sometimes in the hugs from my children. It came sometimes in, just little joys here and there if you're conscious of it. But above all, he promises to be your lifeline through and through. And so that's just what I'm going to leave with you. Hold on to God, hold on to Him. He's able to see you through. And I do pray that one day I can sit on this stream and also hear your stories, your testimonies of how you've come through. Thank you so much again, Brenda. Such an honor to be
Thank you.
here.
Thank you so much, Anita. I love you. God bless you. Please
God bless
go give
you.
our love to those beautiful children of yours and your
Absolutely.
husband, of course. I mean, the support from a husband at times like
Hmm.
this is everything, is
Hmm.
everything. So God bless
Hmm.
him. God bless these good men who just help
Oh,
us get through life.
tell me
Because
about it.
sometimes when you hear about hard marriages, you're always like, oh God, I just thank you.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe the
Hmm.
path we're going, God knew that we needed help.
Neither
So
them. I'm telling you, I agree. I agree. I
God is just
agree.
good. Thank
I
you, Anita.
agree.
Thank you so
Thank
much. Everyone
you.
has said
I
thank you
really
for
appreciate
sharing your
being
very
here.
inspiring story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you have a
You
wonderful night,
guys,
y'all.
see you next Tuesday, same time, 7